Hi, welcome to Helpful Properties. That's what we're going to be titling our page. Helpful Properties. And they're of addition and multiplication. Remember your date and your number on your paper. So, I've already made up this little foldable. You should have it too, but if you don't, you just take a traditional sized notebook paper. You fold it in a hot dog and a hamburger. And then you open it up like this. You should fold the right side into the midpoint line, the left side into the midpoint line. Use some scissors to cut down the middle, and then label accordingly. So, as we go through this flippy floppy foldable, I'm going to start with the commutative property, which is, if you see here, C-O-M-M-U-T-A-T-I-V-E, commutative. And you might have noticed that I drew these lovely lines here. That black line with the two arrows shows someone commuting. So I think of the commutative property kind of like driving a car. Don't be upset if your artistic skills are not quite as good as mine. Here's my car. So when you drive a car, you move from place to place. So you travel or you commute. So when I think about driving a car, I think of the commutative property. And the commutative property says a few different things. So we have the two versions. Remember, we're doing addition and subtraction. So when I open this up, I'm going to turn mine this way. It's a bit easier for me to write. When I open this up, I want to make sure I stay in my lane here. And I'll split it down the middle. On the left side, I'm going to look at addition. And on the right side, I'm going to be looking at multiplication. So the commutative property of addition simply says if the order of the addends change, the sum's going to be the same. Addend, A-D-D-E-N-D, addend, order changes, sum stays the same. So that's quite simple. If the add-in order changes, the sum stays the same. For example, I can do 5 plus 2 equals 10, or not 10, excuse me. 5 plus 2 equals 7. And I can also do 2 plus 5, and that will also equal 7. My sum stays the same. I could also do 11 plus 1 plus 9, and that would be 11, 12, and 9 is 21. Or I can commute my addends, 11 plus 9 plus 1. Notice my grouping stayed the same. I didn't move my parentheses there. Let me zoom in a little bit so you can see a bit better. I didn't move my parentheses. I moved my addend. My 9 swapped places with my 1. They commuted. But I didn't move the 11, and I didn't move my groupings. So that is 11 plus 9 equals 20. Plus 1 more still equals 21. That is the same sum. So that's the commutative property of addition. Well, the one of multiplication is quite the same as well, except if we flip our factors order changes, oh, not sum, product stays the same. So, doesn't matter if I move those factors, still going to result in the same product. Like 3 times 2 equals 6. If I commute 2 over here, 3 over here, my product is still 6. Same thing works if I have 2 times 3 times 2. 2 times 3 is 6, times 2 is 12. But I can have my lovely little factors move on over. 2 times 2 times 3. My groupings are still the same. and I have 2 times 2 which equals 4 times 3 still equals a product of 12. So that is when your add-ins or your factors commute, or they move, their order changes. The groupings haven't moved anywhere, just the factors and add-ins. Now, my next one is the associative property. And the associative property reminds me of who you associate with. It's your grouping. Like, I know, my drawings are so good, it's okay. Your friends that you hang out with, that's who you associate with. Those are your friends. So those are your associates. So when I open up my Flippy Flappy Foldable, I'm again gonna draw a line down the middle, separate it out, and I'm going to use the same two methods of addition and multiplication. And the addition just says, the property says, grouping add-ins change, the sum stays the same. So, add-in, grouping changes, sum stays the same. So that would be, for example, I can have 5 plus 8 plus 14 is the same as saying, oh, let's solve it real quick. So 8 plus 14, that's 22, plus 5 is 27, so that's my sum. 8 plus 14, 22, plus 5 is 27. I can move my groupings. Now watch, right now my groupings are around 8 and 14. My add-in order is 5, 8, 14. But I can do 5 plus 8. See, I didn't move my add-ins. They stayed right where they were. Then I moved my groupings, and 14's out here by himself. And let's see if it still equals the same. 5 plus 8 is 13, plus 14 is 27. So they still equal the same amount. And I could do 2 plus parenthesis 3 plus 4, and that gets me 3 and 4 is 7, plus 2 more is 9. Now watch, my add-in order is 2 plus 3 plus 4. I'm going to move my grouping, not my add-ins, they're in the same order. I move my grouping. And now I have 2 plus 3 is 5 plus 4 is still 9. So it's very similar in multiplication, but instead of using the terms add-in and sum, because it's addition, we're going to use our factors and our products. So I can say that factor grouping changes, product stays the same. So that is the associative property of multiplication. So I can do, let's say, 10 times 3 times 6. And I'm going to have my groupings here. Well, I would do 3 times 6, which is 18, times 10 is 180 product. Well, if I leave my factors in the same spot, 10, 3, 6, 10, 3, 6, and just move my groupings over here, I have 10 times 3, which is 30, times 6, which is 180. Same thing. Just moving my groupings. That's the associative property. Our next property is the identity property. And we've talked about this, I'm sure, in class already, but the identity property has 2 different versions, the addition and multiplication version. And the addition version goes on the left, the multiplication will go on the right. I draw my line down the middle so I do not spill over to the other side. And the identity property says, for addition, sum of any number and 0 is that number. And you may say, what? That sounds weird. But quite simple when you think about it. I can take any number, like the number 7, and add 0. The 7 is going to be my sum. I could take 432, add 0, and my sum will be 432. And that is the identity property of addition. And for multiplication, we say the product of any number and 1 is that number. So again, big difference is this one's 1 and this one's a 0. So I could say 7 times 1 equals 7. 432 times 1 equals 432. So really, this is our big difference. Here we're multiplying by 1. Here we were adding by 0. That's the identity property of addition and of multiplication. So last but not least is the distributive property, and we have talked about this a little bit already, but the distributive property goes along with kind of the same thing here. So you can use it with multiplication or division. So when I think about multiplying, I would look at, let's see, this one's only for multiplying, but you'll see addition values in it, I should say. So multiplication, I would say multiplying a sum by a number is the same as multiplying each addend and adding the products. So that was a mouthful, but if I look at this, I have 5 as a factor times 7 plus 9. Well, if I look at that, I can take that value and say here, I can do 7 plus 9, I can find the sum of 7 plus 9, and I know that would equal 16, and then I would multiply it by 5. So I can do that version, which would be 80. Or I could do the alternate version where I have 5